Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Friday, August 5th installment of the Silicon Insider, the only uncensored look at life and business in the Valley. My name is Mike Malone, and I'm here with special contributor Scott Budman, technology reporter for NBC Bay Area. Our producer is Jordan Henderson. Our East Coast correspondent is Bob Grove. And our host, as always, is the Silicon Valley Business Journal. Okay, so Scott, we don't normally talk about international affairs, but this one seems to be pretty relevant to the Valley, and that is Taiwan. We had the Speaker of the House, Pelosi, went to China. China has strenuously objected to the visit, and now they're lobbing missiles all around Formosa Island. I mean, Taiwan is, getting a lot of attention from China right now. Troops massing on the water's edge, planes flying over. They're saying it's a war games, but it's the biggest one in the history of China. So it's possible. I mean, some China experts are saying, yeah, they're going to go now. I mean, they're really ramping up. What happens besides the millions of people that are going to get killed? What happens? I mean, I hate to talk about something as, unimportant as semiconductor devices compared to all the deaths and destruction, but what happens to the semiconductor industry if Taiwan gets attacked?
Well,
we have been trying to build all those fabs as fast as possible, and the Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturing company is trying to move its assets over here, but it's too early.
Right. Well, I'm not sure if you're asking about the political or the business, because there are two sides to this, and obviously they're clashing and very interwoven. But what I think Nancy Pelosi was doing, what Speaker Pelosi was doing, was trying to focus on the business. We've got this chip bill going on here. As you say, there's a big shortage. Taiwan, the number one maker of semiconductors, is there. And I imagine we want to stay connected with that, to continue to produce our consumer goods. And after all, the conflict that we have between politics and business with China is that, but on a larger scale. Concerns about human rights, concerns about what China is doing, but it's a very big consumer market for our businesses, especially technology. And so we see in Taiwan what we see in China: concerns over whether we normalize relations and do business, or say we can't do it because of human rights. And that's where I think the big clash is happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, I had no objections to Speaker Pelosi going to Taiwan, and the moment China objected, she had to go to Taiwan. But I'm speaking of the facts on the ground. Things are really heating up, and we have an enormous vulnerability precisely because TSMC is the world's largest manufacturer of chips. If Taiwan finds itself in a scorched earth situation, do we have enough capacity to make up for the loss in terms of the demand of U.S. any company right now for chips?
Well, I don't know. I mean, TSMC is number one, right? It's the biggest, and we have great relations with them. So I don't know if we have the capacity. We will eventually, because we're putting more money towards American companies building. Absolutely. But in the short term,
at least 5 years.
Right. Yeah. And we've seen in the short term,
you can't throw up a prefab fab. You can't throw up the walls and just have people in clean suits, working, feverishly away 2 days later. This is a multi-billion-dollar 10-year project to get a fab up and going at full speed.
Right.
And we've only been doing it for about a year and a half now, since the panic began.
Right. So everyone right now that's excited about the chip bill, and that's excited about the idea that we're starting to see more cars on the road and more computers in people's houses because we're starting to catch up, they're watching the Taiwan situation very closely, not just because of politics, but because of business.
So this is a weird thing to ask, but is the chip bill big enough? I mean, the more you look at it, you realize, well, about half of it's pork. Okay, so we're down to about $20 billion that's actually going to go to the industry. That's just 2 fabs. Is that sufficient money to make us independent in the semiconductor industry?
It's hard to say. We haven't needed government subsidy to be independent in the chip industry before. Why would we need it now? I think we just need to get these companies caught up and manufacturing more. And as we've seen with EVs and solar and other technologies, a government boost is often, certainly welcome, but not necessary. These companies need to step up their game because the world is coming to their doorstep and saying, we need you now more than ever. So they need to build more, and it's in their interest to build more. And yeah, they have a little bit of government backing, and that's nice. But I think it's really going to come down to, can they deliver on the need that is out there for their chips?
Look, these are $100 billion, $200 billion companies. They can afford to do this capital investment. Why isn't this money from the chip bill going towards a DARPA type thing to stay ahead of the rest of the world in chip manufacturing technology? It seems to me that'd be a better place to send the money.
Right. I think it's because of politics. I think politicians are noticing a need, and there is a need for more chips because we're in a tough time right now. And they're saying, let's throw money at that because that's a popular thing to do. And it is a Band-Aid. But, again, I agree with you. I think it's just a start. I think the chip companies can and need to do this on their own.
Okay, so we had job reports this morning, didn't we?
Yes.
Have you seen the numbers yet?
I did. They were much stronger than expected. Job creation is strong. It's interesting. The stock market is falling as you and I speak right now on a Friday morning because of concerns that this will lead to further interest rate hikes, because if everybody's hiring and everybody has a job, they're going to spend more money. And the goal of what the Fed has been doing is to try to curb the economy and slow it down. But it's interesting that the job numbers still come in strong.
Well, so that's good news to counter the first layoffs that appeared in Silicon Valley. I mean, here we were expecting them, and here we go. Huge cuts at Robinhood, 23% of their staff. And how much at Oracle? Have they announced the numbers yet, or just there's going to be layoffs?
Right. We didn't get specific numbers, just that there would be layoffs in several divisions. And Oracle is gigantic. And so I don't know how much you can take from that. And Robinhood is Robinhood. So again, I don't know that that speaks to anything other than this is a company that maybe shouldn't be as big or as publicly traded as it is. It's a different way to trade stocks. It's very risky and still new and unproven. And obviously they had their day with the meme stocks during the pandemic and everything. But I wouldn't say that those particular layoffs are, endemic of what's going to go on through Silicon Valley. But we did expect job cuts. A lot of these stock valuations have been hit. A lot of the companies are talking slowdown, but we haven't seen a whole lot of cuts. And as much as I wouldn't be surprised if tech companies did start to lay off more, this job number is strong. The unemployment rate is much lower. And I expect, for a while, our unemployment rate has been hovering around 4%. Silicon Valley's was, as of June, 1.8%. So I don't know, it's a bit of a lag, but in the next few days, we should find out super locally how we're doing here in tech. And I'm curious if it hovers around that really low number still.
Are the Oracle layoffs even going to be in the Valley?
Some are, yes, in the Bay Area. But you're right, that company is spread out so far, and it even moved its official headquarters. Right. But I've been told that some of them are here in the Bay Area. Okay.
How about earnings? We've had some more earnings this week, right? And they were mixed. So Airbnb had a good quarter. What do you think? Just people are trying to save money, still want to go on vacation, but they're trying to save money? Do you think that's it?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's right in Airbnb's wheelhouse. And also, remember, Airbnb, went public during the pandemic. It did well to an extent because people weren't going to hotels or to faraway places. And I think maybe that's part of what it is, as we sort of come out of lockdown fears and concerns. But there are many of us, and I raise my hand on this one, that aren't ready to say take a cruise. So people are saying, hey, maybe I'll go to a nearby beach community or town or something and do an Airbnb. And it's a nice way to get away without being in a big crowd, let's say.
So couples apparently are having fun now.
Yes.
But singles are not. Match.com had a bad quarter. Are people just not dating? So you're okay going to a beach rental with your mate, but meeting a new possible mate, that's still off the table. Too
You know,
much work.
I wonder, and right, I'm not in the dating demographic, but during the pandemic, a lot of software, a lot of internet companies did super, super well. And I wondered if if you're not going to bars, if you're not going to parties or even weddings, maybe this is how you meet people online. And so to see them struggle, I don't know if this is a long-term problem or if they just had a bad quarter, but I really wonder. And you bring up a good point, right? Airbnb is what couples are doing right now. Match.com is for singles. And if they have a slow quarter, what does that say about how people are meeting each other in a time where we're not locked down, but we're not yet acting totally free, are we?
Yeah, I talked to my sister. She's on vacation up on the coast of Oregon, which is the kind of place you go when you think there's a recession coming. You don't want to spend too much money, but you still want to get away. And there's a lot of tourists in that town. And she says it's a little quieter this year than the last time she was up there. So maybe people are still hesitating. They're kind of running out of summer, but we'll see. Now we keep having these surges of COVID coming back regionally, and now the country's talking about, the feds are talking about, well, we got to lock down some on monkeypox. So maybe we're never going to get out from underneath this black cloud. It's just going to be a series of health warnings for the rest of our lives.
Maybe I mean, I hate to think that way, but yeah, and this is going to be around at least for a while. And I think one of the reasons we're seeing some of these adjustments by companies is they're finally getting that picture. Peloton knows it's not going to keep selling bikes, but then again, people are going to be using Airbnb more than maybe the cruises or even, so there is a shift going on, but it's a really subtle one still. I talk to a lot of people who say, yeah, we'll meet you if we go outside, or, you know what I mean? It's still on people's minds, which obviously is healthy. Who wants to get this thing? But yeah, for all the people that are saying, I'm done with this, I'm going to go live my life, there's still a lot of people who are being cautious. And that's where business is right now, trying to thread the needle between I'm ready to do everything and I'm still being cautious.
Okay, so let's talk about Facebook. Facebook is, what the hell is going on there? I mean, we had two things this week. First of all, we have a senior research fellow at the American Institute of Economic Research says that claims that Facebook is positively Orwellian because they immediately canceled or suspended anybody who continued to use the old definition of recession after the White House announced their new definition of recession. And we see this actually all the way across media, how many stories got retroactively changed by their publisher, by the media, when they said 2 quarters of economic downturn constitutes a recession. Suddenly it all got changed. I mean, this is, for an old newspaper, man, this is pretty frightening. I mean, is there now a system of memos that go out, or do all these publications voluntarily, just change language at and not even at the behest? So they're actually ahead of being asked to change it. Does this bother you? It bothers the hell out of me.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're talking about Facebook, you're talking about, and I think Facebook gets far too much credit for where people get their news. I mean, I beat the drum daily on don't get your news from Facebook. And it doesn't have to do with what the definition of recession, and it's because Facebook is such a prime spot for misinformation and for people to, put disinfo out there. And also, it's clearly the leaders, let's call it Meta, the leaders of Meta are taking their eyes off the ball, I fear, and not focusing as much on Facebook and Instagram as they should, given their problems. But again, focusing on this metaverse and putting billions of dollars toward it. Right now, it's not anything that's really all that functioning.
Well, let's talk about the metaverse. You sent me an astounding number. I read it elsewhere too, that 81% of job listings advertised with the word metaverse in the title disappeared between April and June.
Right. So 8 out of every 10 jobs that had the word metaverse in the title have been removed from places like LinkedIn, which means
nobody's jumping on that bandwagon.
Well, right. I think it means first, everybody jumped too quickly on that bandwagon. And now people are taking at least a healthy wait and see attitude to say, why in the world would we do this? Remember, everyone was getting into crypto. Everyone was getting in. I mean, everything, all of business runs into new things.
The latest thing. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes that's running into a brick wall. I mean, no company is going to benefit or get hurt by the metaverse more than Meta itself. And look at, the last year, its stock is down more than 50%.
Well, I was going to say, not only are people outside companies backing away a little bit, but it looks like senior management at Meta is starting to back away too. There's a big article in the Telegraph, the London Telegraph, talking about like Sir Nicholas Clegg, who was the vice prime minister. He's now the president of Meta Europe or something for international operations. He's staying in England. I mean, it looks like the inner circle of Zuckerberg is starting to kind of move away from him, isolating him. I mean, and it's been going on for a while now. People are just not going to the home office anymore. And you sort of get a sense that he's starting to get an Ahab reputation around him, that his obsession is so great, and he's not listening to contradictory, data or advice or warnings or anything else. He's dead set on pursuing this thing, and everybody is getting out of the blast zone.
I don't know. I mean, I think you could make a case that that's ultimately why Sheryl Sandberg is no longer at the company, and I think it's really just the big giant question mark. And it's not a question mark like, hey, let's experiment and see what we can do while making sure we take care of what pays the bills. This is a giant question mark that's taking billions of dollars away from what pays the bills. And I think that's the fear. We've talked about it before when we talk about investing in a company. You're investing because you're optimistic about the future. And what does the stock market dislike more than anything but uncertainty? I think right now, Meta as a market and a stock and a company unto itself has more uncertainty in its future than optimism. And I think people are voting with their wallets. And you have privacy advocates that I talk to here in Silicon Valley who are just waiting to see what kind of privacy concerns come with this metaverse, because after all, it's going to be a new platform. But yeah, even down to Meta itself, this is outside of the scope of what it's been doing ever since it was a company. This is something new. And so when you have these job openings for the metaverse, it's sort of like in the early days of, say, solar panels, where it's like, well, you're used to being on a roof. We'll hire you to put on solar panels. And then obviously there was training, but there was also a transition to something new. And at this point, companies are just putting up these jobs saying, hey, we got to be in the metaverse. Why? We sell food. You can't eat in the metaverse. Yeah, but we still have to have a presence. This is the next web. And I just don't know that that's true. And so I think companies now are not turning their backs on it necessarily, but are taking a wait and see attitude, which is probably healthy given that Meta itself doesn't seem to quite be ready, even with its own metaverse.
So with these senior executives and their actions recently, are they telegraphing that they don't think this is going to work, or saying this is going to really hurt Facebook? Maybe we'll turn Meta around in a few years, but for the near term, this company's got a problem? Or are they saying we just can't work with Zuckerberg anymore because he becomes so obsessive about this?
I don't know. I think that most of the executives are still there. It's not like we're seeing a mass run for the exits. But if this thing takes a long time and is still in the uncertain phase, and the stock price still goes down to the point where people are not investing millions and millions of dollars, you will see people leave for the next hot thing. And maybe they'll give up on this, this quest of Ahab. But I don't think we're there yet. I just think my big hope is that we do see whatever this metaverse plan is, and we get to look at it and walk around it a little bit. I've had a couple of demos where I've gotten to look around and just to see as a platform What are the pluses? What are the minuses? What are the privacy concerns? Is it a place you can do business, or are we going to ask people to buy virtual things that don't exist? We saw how well that worked with the NFT hot thing for a while. So there's got to be a way to make money. Obviously, there's got to be a way to convince people that it's safe. We just don't know any of this yet.
Okay, well, so you've actually used it.
Yes.
And you're a grown up. Is the metaverse going to be a place for grown-ups?
I mean, it'll be a place for grown-ups if those grown-ups like playing video games and having a new experience at that, or taking a virtual tour of a house, or even a vacation destination before you see it. I just, if I'm the kind of grown-up, let's say, that isn't interested in spending real money on fake things. So I don't know how much of the metaverse is going to be for me. I was never a big Farmville person because it wasn't a real farm that they wanted my money for.
Right.
And so that part of the metaverse, no. And you're right. I don't need to be in the metaverse to see a band. If I can't go to a real concert, I'm not in it. And maybe that makes me old. I get it. But the young people I know and live with are not waiting with bated breath for the metaverse. They're spending too much time on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me there's a fundamental flaw, which is adults have responsibilities, and you're constantly looking around to see if there's anything going wrong that you have to take care of. If you go into a sensory deprivation universe, the physical world is still operating around you. And I would be terrified to have those glasses on for very long. It's like, is the oven on? Did I leave the sprinklers going outside? Did I lock the front door? I mean, it's hard to imagine, if you're 16 and it's Saturday, until your parents rip the glasses off of you, you could stay on for hours. You're not concerned. Everybody's taking care of you. But as an adult, you're the one taking care. It just doesn't seem practical.
Well, look, I mean, adults spend a bunch of time on Facebook. Will they spend time in the metaverse? I don't know. I mean, I'm paid to be a little bit skeptical about these things. And so when I walk around, I'm not, embracing it. I'm looking at it with some skepticism and asking some questions. And there are some kind of cool things in there. But again, so much of it is saying, look what we can do virtually without leaving our homes. And if you say that out loud, given what we've all been going through over the last 2.5 years, it falls a bit flat for me. And so I need to see something more than your avatar can meet with other avatars that are far away. We just need more than that.
Now, I like the idea of amplified reality. If I could put on a pair of goggles I can see through, but I'm looking at the Grand Canyon, and I can call up past images of the canyon, the history of the canyon, the geological record of the canyon, while simultaneously looking at the canyon. I love that. Now
there may be,
experience.
And that's what I'm sort of excited about, is the academic potential here to go back in history to, and I mean, look at what we're doing with the James Webb Space Telescope and NASA. We're looking literally at history from further away than any human has ever seen history. If we can do that in VR, AR, whatever, that would be a great way to even balance out. If we get these in the hands of school kids, in both wealthy and not wealthy districts, to sort of balance out the learning and say, hey, you can do this no matter where you are. That would be wonderful. I don't know. There's so much potential, but it's still potential. And I think that's why people are skeptical and saying, whoa, maybe we don't need to hire 50 metaverse people just yet, because we don't know what they'll be doing.
To sit around with goggles on for the next 4 years until we actually have an app developed they can use.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Meanwhile, Google, an engineer who was fired by Google says its AI chatbot is pretty racist. And interestingly, well, he said there's an AI bias in his chatbot, mainly because there's no diversity among the engineers designing, this product. Okay, I can buy that, but you're going to have a hard time finding diversity in guys who design AI. But even so, if it's racist, I mean, we've had this image that AI will be pure, that it'll be beyond, these weaknesses of humanity, that it'll see things objectively. And now guys saying, no, it's biased as hell, it's racist. And then on top of it, Google kind of goes, yeah, we put it through 11 ethical reviews to address concerns about its fairness. Well, two things struck me on that. First one was, you have to give an ethical review now to a robot to make sure that it's not bigoted. And second, they've gone through 11 of these reviews, and apparently they haven't solved the problem. So maybe this is intractable. Maybe, we've been hearing all this stuff about, AI is starting to think for itself and all of that, have a personality, have self-preservation. Is this a glimpse of, a fundamental flaw in AI, that it's not going to be objective?
I mean, the short answer is yes, because, and I'm absolutely unqualified to go deeply into how this stuff is created, although I have talked to Blake Lemoine, the gentleman in question, who was the one who said AI was sentient. He thought it had a soul. He was dismissed. He lost his job at Google. He's now saying it's racist. AI is really
what guy. I didn't realize it was the same guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And AI is what we humans put into it, and we humans are flawed. And I don't know how we expect AI to be anything other than a reflection of those flaws, at least while they're human created.
Yeah.
And that is about the extent of my knowledge on this. But every even chat bot, not to mention, AI thing, is flawed because of that very reason. And, when you say it's going to be hard to find a way to get a diverse group of people to create AI, well, that's a flaw in the entire system. Yes. You can't, then you just have to say, stop creating AI, because this is going to happen over and over again. It's going to reflect a very small, homogenous group of people. And that's worthless. We don't want that over and over again. So, tech companies are getting ahead of themselves. They're focusing on AI instead of focusing on diversifying their staff before they try to create artificial intelligence. And so you're just going to have this happen over and over again. And it's too bad, because these are talented scientists, but they're creating something that only reflects a very small number of people.
Well, and, I've been reading all these business books, even writing business books, talking about how we'll be able to use AI to increase our efficiency, productivity. It'll make decisions fast and make them fairly. We're gonna end up having an AI member of the board to help us gather information and make decisions. And I had this vision of, there's the AI terminal sitting there at the board meeting of this XYZ corporation, and somebody turns and says, "Well, what do you think, AI?" And it says, "Shut up, woman. Let a man do his job." I mean, how is this going to improve situations? I mean, if the thing carries the biases of a small group of people, as you say, a small coterie of people that you probably in real life wouldn't turn your destiny over to. These are not exactly, worldly Renaissance men. This isn't the founding fathers. It's not Benjamin Franklin sitting in that device. What the hell's the point?
A fair question. And again, I lack scientific knowledge to go any deeper than that, but to say that's a fair question. And I don't know why it continues while people are admitting, hey, this is not a diverse group of people. This is a very small, then why are you still doing it? I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm sure we'll be tracking this in the future.
Not to say, and I'll bring up this quickly, that there isn't some good benefit of AI. I've been told that AI is the reason our translator apps work better and better and better, because we're feeding more languages and stuff into it, and they're developing that better. And that's kind of cool.
And it can learn. It can learn.
It can learn. If you have a Rumba, the robot vacuum cleaner, by the way, bought this morning for about $1.5 billion by Amazon. Really? So yeah, well, let me check the price on that. But yeah, Rumba is going to Amazon as of some breaking news. But that is something that learns your house. And yeah, 1.7 billion. So Rumba will be now all over Amazon. But that's something that gradually learns how to clean up your house. And that, I guess is a good thing. But for the most part, right, it's so early and so still undiverse that you're going to see this over and over again until you fix not the robots, but fix the humans.
Well, why is Amazon buying Rumba? I mean, why is it starting to buy one competitor in a particular marketplace when it's selling all the competitors in that marketplace? I mean, shouldn't it be ecumenical rather than pushing particular products?
I mean, that was the
business
original
strategy.
Right. That may have been the original version, but now Amazon is making, the Echo. It's making the Ring doorbell. It's making things that also, an Echo helps a shopping company because an Echo listens to everything you say and gets to know your family and its needs. That's a different show, but yeah. And then, the Roomba is, look, Amazon wants to sell things and have it one click away. It looks at the robots and says, this could be in every house, but for marketing and availability and ease of blah, blah, blah. And so now it's its own supply chain and everybody gets a Roomba, just wait.
Unless you have Persian carpets, then it just chews up the fringe as it goes by. Okay, real quick, because we're running out of time. I thought of you, a memory of your childhood. If you were, I don't know if you even remember 1970, but we're back, not only recession, and inflation, but police and protesters clashed in Berkeley's People's Park.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. I'm from Oakland. The free speech movement, really, that was, and we're at near the anniversary of that. But no, that was before I was born. However, my mother, as a young undergraduate, was one of those sitting in at UC Berkeley. Very proud of that. But yeah, the People's Park thing is such a thing of its time and of another time. Like, is it Berkeley hippie culture? We want to hang out at the park. Yeah. Berkeley wants to build student housing, which is laudable, right? Berkeley is a big place. It's academic. We need more, we need more smart students. We want and absolutely need more housing. But does the aesthetic of, hey, we want the park to be our own versus let's build housing for the students, that's the clash. That's pretty 2022 right there.
Yeah. Well, and every time I've driven by People's Park in the last 50 years, my first thought is, won't somebody just mow the lawn? I mean, it just looked like a giant vacant lot.
Yeah, seeing the People's Park footage is one of those things, and we see a lot of that in the Bay Area, where you think, what is the rest of the nation going to think?
Yeah.
This place, known for two things, wildly successful academia and a desperate housing crisis, is trying to solve them both. And they can't because people won't leave the park. This is one of those ripe for national news. Oh gosh, look at those Bay Area people. Who knows where it's going to go? I understand both sides, but it's such a clash of modernity versus the past.
Okay, and finally, a shout out to two followers of this blog who are old friends from Oxford University. First, Stephen Todd, a true Silicon Valleyite at heart, who is now Deputy Director of Innovation at University College London. And Richard Ovenden, librarian of the first and still the best university library in the world, the Bodleian. Congratulations to you on the U.S. edition of Burning the Books, your award-winning book on a story of history's lost libraries. Hi, guys. Hope you're still listening. That's it for now, folks. You can find us on the Silicon Valley Business Journal homepage, as well as on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, LinkedIn, and check out, of course, our YouTube page. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.